Today we start another new topic, which is titled as Pahana. As Pahana. Pahana is abandoning, suppression, or eradication. So it is a mental act, and when the Pahana is done, the mind gets purified. So what is being abandoned, what is being suppressed, what is being eradicated is the unwholesome qualities of the mind. So normally, according to the Abhidhamma teachings, only akusala should be abandoned or eradicated, not the kusalas. But there are various types of Pahana I will be discussing throughout this topic. In the beginning, the most prominent and foremost Pahana will be discussed, that is the eradication of unwholesome states. So I have given a definition. Pahana is the mental act which purifies the mind stream by abandoning unwholesome states, either temporarily or permanently, by arousing or developing wholesome states. It's quite a long definition. So there are a few components of this definition that I would like to emphasize. It's mentioned as a mental act because the unwholesome states are found associating the mental state, mind stream. So therefore, Pahana is something happens with related to the mind. That's why it was given as a mental. It was given an attribute, or it was given a adjectival form as mental. And when these unwholesome states are removed or temporarily suppressed or abandoned, the mind gets purified, it becomes pure. That's why it was mentioned as a process of purification. So the actual purification of the beings is not by purifying the body, it is by purifying the mind. So the Buddha mentioned to Visakha, the devotee, that a being doesn't get purified by cleaning the defiled body or cleaning the sweat and dirt which is smeared on the body, but it is by removing the dirt in the mind, which is also called Rajo. If you look into the instructions given by Chulla Pantaka, Buddha mentioned Rajo Nachapanarenu Vuchati Ragasetang Adivachanang Rajoti. Rajo is the dirt, or is the dust, you would say. So actual dust of the mind is the Lobha, Dosa and Moha. So when the mind is the Lobha, Dosa or Moha of mind is removed, the mind gets purified. So that is why we mention Pahana is a process of mental purification. In the ultimate essence, Pahana refers to the non-arising of thus abandoned defilements. So actually when we say abandoning, in the ultimate sense, it refers to the non-arising of the abandoned defilements. It's not a mere absence. Some would like to consider that after an unwholesome state is abandoned, it is just missing. But that missing is an ultimate state, which I will be discussing in the last two lectures under the topic of Nibbana. So when we say abandoning, after the defilement is abandoned, it doesn't arise for a certain time. If it is permanently eradicated, it doesn't arise forever. If it is temporarily abandoned, it may not arise for a certain period. So there are not two things: the abandoning and the state of after the state which is attained by abandoning. They are not two things. The state, we call it Nibbana. In the last lecture I would talk about this liberation. This liberation and abandoning are the same. They are identical. So that's why in the ultimate sense I mentioned Pahana refers to the non-arising of thus abandoned defilements. But this further needs more elaboration. We'll come to that point. If you go to if you go to 15.5, I have also given the wholesome qualities. 15.5, the wholesome qualities that abandon unwholesome states are also referred with the term Pahana. I couldn't give you the reference, but it is mentioned in the commentary for Sutta Nipata, in the beginning part. Sometimes Pahana refers to the Pahayaka, the one who abandons. Sometimes it refers to the state after it is abandoned. It means the state non-arising state. So when I say when a kilesa is abandoned, it comes we attain a state of non-arising of the kilesa. This action of abandoning and this state are not two things. That is the same thing. We'll talk about this when we come to the last two lectures, Nibbana. So for the time being, I'll just give a fundamental in the 15.2, in the ultimate sense, Pahana refers to the non-arising of thus abandoned defilements. So it's a non-arising. But we normally say the wholesome deeds abandons the unwholesome deeds, but there is no such a extra function of abandoning other than this non-arising of akusala. They are identical. We'll come to that point when we come to the final lectures. So then it's the ultimate state. That's what I want to emphasize. This is also called Nibbana in the Buddhist literature. In the Anguttara Nikaya, I will discuss of this matter in this topic. Tadanga Nibbana Sutta. So our tradition, this state in which after the defilement has been abandoned, that state of non-arising has been referred as Nibbana. So it is an ultimate state according to our tradition. So then 15.3, what should be abandoned is called Pahatabba. I think all of you are familiar. If you remember the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, how to say, Buddha say, Pahatabbanti me, Dukkhaṃ Samudayam Arya Saccang Pahatabbanti me. That should be abandoned. Then Pahinam, that is already abandoned. So he had the understanding about the Four Noble Truths in 12 ways. So Pahatabbam is the Samudaya. That was the Tanha according to the Four Noble Truths. But according to Abhidhamma perspective, all the unwholesome states should be abandoned. All the unwholesome states should be abandoned. There is a way of saying the wholesome states should also be abandoned. We will come to that point when we go further, because this lecture is divided mainly into two portions. First is the abandoning, then the abandoning of non-defilements. This is, we are talking about the abandoning of akusala in the beginning, then we come into the abandoning of non-defilements, like when you go into jhanas and so forth. So first we are talking about the abandoning of akusala or defilements. So what should be abandoned is called Pahatabba. Right? It should be Pahatabba. Mainly I am referring to akusalas. But keep in mind, in our sasana, we talk about the abandoning of non-akusalas as well. Like for example, Vitakka of the first jhana should be abandoned by the second jhana. In the Samyutta Nikaya, Buddha mentioned to abandon the rupa. So there are, when we go into the Nirodha Samapatti, for example, in the fourth jhana, we abandon the inhalation and exhalations, breath. So likewise, there are various abandonings. But in the beginning, I will be emphasizing more upon the akusala, abandoning of unwholesome states. So what should be abandoned is called Pahatabba. According to the Buddhist teachings found in number of suttas, what should be abandoned are all unwholesome mental qualities. Sabbe akusala dhamma. Sometimes Buddha refers as Kaya duccharita, Vachi duccharita, Mano duccharita. sometimes as lobha, dosa, moha, sometimes in the terms of panatipata, adinadana. So various ways the Buddha has mentioned. This is called abandoning. And also he has mentioned akiriya. Akiriya also means abandoning. So this pahana has a lot of synonyms, which I couldn't gather because of lack of time that I had. So sometimes akiriya, akarana, pahana. So there are various terms that we can use. But when I say akiriya, akarana, it doesn't mean the mere absence. I'll come to that as a fundamental as well. But there are synonyms that were used pahana for the pahana. So in number of suttas we can find pahana, what should be abandoned is the pahatabba. These are the unwholesome qualities that lie latent in the mind stream of sentient beings. An akusala dhamma which has arisen come into any of the three stages, come into any of the stages of upada, titi or banga, cannot be abandoned. Instead, it passes away naturally according to the nature of conditioned law. Right? In the conditioned law, according to the conditioned nature, conditioned reality. According to the law of nature of conditioned realities, it abandons, it passes away naturally. So I have given you the commentarial explanation on this matter. This is a very highly discussed topic in our tradition, that something which has arisen, come into the states of upada, titi, banga, cannot be abandoned, cannot be removed. It has its own natural cause of arising, staying and passing away. So what should be abandoned? What can be abandoned? That is important. That is what I mentioned. I couldn't bold it. If you can underline that. An akusala, after the bold letters, these are the unwholesome qualities that lie latent in the mind stream of sentient beings. Please underline that line. So this is a fundamental, that what should be abandoned is something that lies underlying or remaining dormant or latent in our mind stream. That is also fundamental. Please underline. After the akusala dhamma, right, the next sentence. I have given the bold in bold letters, akusala dhamma, the next sentence should be underlined. Then a question may come, in day-to-day life, we do abandon certain unwholesome states when they arise. We know when the anger arises in us, we are instructed to develop metta instantly. If raga arises, we are asked to develop asubha instantly. When the tina middha arises, we are supposed to contemplate the dangers of the apaya and to strive hard. So there are ways that we should abandon akusalas when they arise. So there is a very basic fundamental in the tradition that what is abandoned is the unwholesome states which lay dormant, which lay latent. So what is the phenomena we are experiencing? When we get a dosa, we practice metta and we get rid of the dosa. So how do we explain this? So in this day-to-day experience we have, when the dosa arises, for example, dosa keeps on arising. It arises in generations. It means in VTs, not continuously always bhavanga will be interrupting. But it happens in a generation. So, in a certain time, when the Yoniso Manasikara arises, we start to develop something called metta, for example. I am going to bring different color. We say blue side green color. Then we develop something called metta. So when the metta is developed, dosa is abandoned. So what is the dota which is abandoned? If for example, if we say if the metta was not developed, this dosa would have continued for a certain period. Right? Would have continued in the same way, in the same flow. So when we arouse metta, this dosa that would have arisen otherwise become abandoned. This is what gets abandoned. So if I show it in a line, so this is what gets abandoned. So these dosa which has arisen momentarily, you cannot abandon it because they have their own course. While the dosa is present, you cannot bring a metta in between because no two chittas can happen at the same time. So there is no possibility
that we abandon something which has arisen. The only possibility is we bring a wholesome state and stop the further arising of dosa, further arising of akusala. So that is what is mentioned as abandon. Possibility, the unwholesome state that was possible to happen if metta was not developed is what is abandoned. So therefore, even at the moment of magga, even at the attaining jhana, even in day-to-day life, observing sila, doing vipassana, and all these practices, what you abandon is the akusalas that were possible to arise. That means the latent, dormant akusalas that follow our mind stream with the possibility of arising when the conditions are gathered. So therefore, if I lay the lifeline, what can be abandoned is the defilements that are possible to arise, not what have arisen. Supramundane paths to eradicate the defilements that are possible to arise, not the ones that have arisen. They are the latent anusaya defilements. So always we are dealing in the fundamental level, we are dealing with the anusayas. So because it's very clear in the path level, path consciousness arises in a mind stream. In that mind stream there is no akusala at all. You know, we discuss about parikama, upachara, anuloma, gotra, bhu, magga and pala. So no akusala is happening at that time. So what is being abandoned is the latent akusalas. Yeah. So Banta is asking a question. In Sammapadhana Virya, we are told that Uppannanam Papakanam Apusalanam Dhammanam Pahanaya. What has arisen, we abandon, right? We abandon. Yeah. So when we say Uppanna, right? When we say Uppanna, we can interpret this in two ways. This statement. Another, when we say Uppanna has two meanings. What is arisen and what is possible to arise. When we say Uppanna, it has two meanings. What is arisen, what is possible to arise. So when we say abandoning defilements that are Uppanna, one way of explaining is we abandon the defilements that are possible to happen in our lives. It means they refers now in this life I have done certain unwholesome deeds. They are called Uppanna Akusala. Right? And then they are again still possible to happen. They are called Uppanna Akusala. So if Akusala is done in this life, already happened. So when we abandon that Akusala, we still are dealing with the possibility to happen. So when we say Uppanna, it has two meanings. Akusala which has already happened, it means we have done. For example, someone had done killing in this life. He determines not to do that Akusala again. So when the Akusala, for example, when we say Uppanna Akusala, Anuppanna Akusala, for instance, the commentary says there is no Anuppanna Akusala when you compare the entire samsara. We have done all sort of Akusalas. The possibility is there, right? So Anuppanna Akusala is you have to determine by this life. So when we come to Uppanna Akusala, also we can say about the samsara and also within this life. So we have done, someone has done certain Akusalas in this life, so we abandon them. So when we are abandoning the Akusalas which are possible to arise again. So I'll discuss this matter in the next Saturday, this word Uppanna in the Paramattha Jatikas topic. Uppanna has two meanings. Something which has arisen, something which is possible to arise. Something which is possible. Uppanna Raha becomes Uppanna. Right? So according to eradication, what we eradicate is Uppanna Raha, what is possible to arise. Right? Uppanna Raha. Oh. Yeah, so Bante is asking, I mentioned that there is no Anuppanna Akusala when you compare to the Sansara. So when we are talking abandon the Anuppanna Akusala even, right? So anupanna akusala. So what is possible to okay, this is another point. So what is possible to, I'm telling all the possibilities, right? What is possible to arise is also called anupanna because it has not arisen. So therefore, for example, anusaya kilesa can be latent kilesa, can be given three names: anupanna akusala, uppanna akusala, anusaya akusala. Anupanna akusala means because it has not arisen yet in this life, for example. It is about to arise. Anupanna akusala. So uppanna akusala means which is possible to arise. Anusaya means which follows the mind stream, like following, and whenever the causes are there, it would arise. So therefore, I'll come to that topic in the next week. I'll address this point, right, with, according to his lecture also. I have to again look into the text commentary for give you a precise answer. But I am telling the possibilities that according to our tradition, only what is possible to abandon is what can be abandoned is what is possible to arise. Akusala, which is possible to arise. Interrupting something which has arisen is not possible. Right? Interrupting something which has arisen is not possible according to our teachings. Then 58.4, wholesome qualities or kusala dhamma that abandon pahatabba means that should be abandoned, are called pahayaka. Since wholesome qualities should be developed in order to abandon the unwholesome qualities, kusala dhamma are also called bhavetabba. That is, will be discussed in the next topic today. So kusala dhammas which abandon the akusalas are called pahayaka. It is subjective definition. Sometimes the kusalas which abandon the akusalas are also called pahayaka, right? Then pahana, right? Wholesome qualities, actually wholesome qualities and also mainly wholesome qualities we can refer to that. Merely not doing an unwholesome action does not refer to abandoning them, which is a very important thing. Just absence of akusala, not doing akusala is not pahana. There is a nice sutta called Samana Mundika Sutta. In some traditions it's called Samana Mandika Sutta. In some traditions it's called Samana Mundika Sutta. In the Sinhalese tradition it's called Samana Mandika. In Burmese it's Mundika. So there was a wandering ascetic called Uggahamana. So he was visited by one devotee, a carpenter called Panchanga, called a Panchanga. He was referred at the text as Panchanga Tapati. So this person had a discussion with the Uggahamana Paribhajaka. So in the discussion, the Paribhajaka, the wandering ascetic, said that he considered, according to his viewpoint, the second line, according to his viewpoint, a person who does not do any evil deeds with body, speech and mind and for the sake of livelihood is considered as one who has accomplished in what is wholesome, perfected in what is wholesome, and ascetic, invincible, attained to the supreme attainment. So this is what is said. One who is not doing unwholesome deeds is a supreme person. So this was reported to the Buddha. Buddha rebuked this answer. Buddha didn't like the answer. So Buddha rebuked the answer, idea of the wandering ascetic Uggahamana, and delivered the Samana Mundika Sutta recorded in the Majjhima Nikaya. It's a very important sutta. According to what the Buddha has explained, one does not become a person who is endowed with wholesomeness just because he is not performing any evil deed. One becomes a person who is endowed with wholesome qualities and free from evil only when he adopts wholesome qualities which are against unwholesomeness. So he has to, so Buddha gave that explanation. A person should know what is wholesome, what is unwholesome. Then having known what is wholesome and unwholesome, he adopts the wholesomeness. So then he abandons the unwholesomeness. This is how a person becomes a real ascetic. So this is a very important statement. So therefore mere absence of akusala is not abandoning. So therefore, if someone, for an instant, when we are sleeping, we don't have any akusala. But sleeping is not considered as abandoning unwholesomeness, right? So just mere absence is not abandoning. Abandoning happens by developing wholesomeness, which is opposite to unwholesomeness. That is very important. And therefore, for example, we take about a cow who is very innocent, who doesn't even harm an ant. We normally say even a cow doesn't harm an ant purposely, right? I don't know whether they eat some, when they are angry, they would eat some flies or something. But anyway, we don't know, we are not aware that he's not he's not a predator, right? It doesn't harm anyone. If it is well tamed, even a man hits him, but still he doesn't shout even, right? It's so patient, the cow. Even cow is one of the animals who have a lot of patience, right? Not like a dog. So then this cow, for example, cow doesn't harm anyone. He doesn't kill anyone. He doesn't do any stealing, sexual misconduct, lying. But has the cow abandoned its unwholesomeness? No. Abandoning of unwholesomeness happens by adopting wholesomeness. So therefore, Buddha rebuked this answer given by Samana Mundika and gave a very nice sutta explaining one who abandons the unwholesomeness, one who abandons and adopts wholesomeness but who is not perfect. Then a person who has abandoned unwholesomeness, adopted wholesomeness and becomes perfect. So he gave the sutta in very detail. So in the Samana Mundika Sutta you can refer to it. Based on this fundamental teaching, Pahana is not just not doing evil, it is the abandoning of evil, developing wholesome qualities. That is very important. Moreover, replacing a certain akusala with another akusala is also not Pahana. That is another point. Sometimes when we are sorrow, when we are sad, sometimes the instructions are given, go to a bar, take some drinks, or in the society, right? Go to a party, enjoy something. So at that time we forget the dosa. We get a lot of loba mula chittas, we are happy. This is not abandoning dosa. This is called replacing dosa with loba. Right? This is called replacing dosa with loba. So Pahana, when we develop Pahana, what happens? The intensity of the akusala gets lessened, and it is a fully opposite thing happening. So therefore, when we replace the dosa with loba, it is not considered as Pahana in our tradition. Only by a wholesome quality we have to do this, right? So then comes the wholesomeness is against the unwholesomeness. So when we develop wholesomeness and abandon unwholesomeness, there are two ways we can do it. When we consider about an unwholesome quality like dosa, loba, moha, either we can develop a directly opposite wholesomeness, or we can bring whatever wholesomeness and suppress it. So there are two ways of abandoning. You develop a directly opposite wholesome quality and strongly abandon the unwholesome quality. You just bring whatever wholesome quality and directly abandons the unwholesome quality. For example, we get metta, dosa. So if you want to abandon it directly, you have to bring metta, which is not easy at that time, but that is the opposing force. So if it is too difficult, we have to bring whatever wholesome quality. It means you can develop asubha, you can develop Buddha Anusati, which is not opposing. Still, it can suppress it. So Buddha has delivered teachings based on the both methods. When he explained about Nivarna Pahana in Anguttara Nikaya, he mentioned directly opposing unwholesome qualities. But when you go to Vitakka Sandhana Sutta, if you have read in Majjhima Nikaya, Buddha mentions about abandoning the unwholesomeness in various ways. Right? In various ways. Just don't think about it. Just think about its root cause. So likewise, there are given different examples. Sometimes, if it is not bearable, just press your tongue to your upper palate and try to abandon the akusala. So likewise, akusala can be abandoned with wholesomeness, but there are two ways: developing directly opposing wholesomeness or just developing a wholesomeness. When we come into, for example, when we are attaining jhana, it is not necessary that you develop directly opposing wholesomeness. For example, we develop Asubha jhana, you abandon all the 5 types of hindrances. Vyapada is also abandoned. Kamachanda is also abandoned. But Kamachanda is more abandoned. So when we develop Metta, Metta is not opposing of Kamachanda. Metta is little bit supportive to Kamachanda. So that is why when you practice Metta, we normally say don't start with the person whom you love, especially the opposite sex. This can arouse Lobha, its possibility is there because they are a bit closer. But when you develop Metta, when you come into the jhana, you are getting rid of Kamachanda, sensual desires, because you are getting the first jhana. But what will be strongly abandoned, suppressed, is the dosa, vyapada, anger towards others. So likewise, when you are developing jhana, you develop one path, but all the akusalas will be abandoned. That is the nature. But when you come to vipassana, when you develop the Sakkaya Ditti Visuddhi, Kanka Vitarana Visuddhi, Magga, these Visuddhis when you develop, you have to shoot exactly against the Kilesa. It is not possible that you develop Samadhi and get rid of Moha. Impossible. It's not possible that you develop a different tranquility quality and get rid of the Moha. You have to develop wisdom. That is the only way. It's not like suppression done by jhana. So that is why when come to vipassana, we mention each vipassana quality, jnana, is opposing a certain akusala quality. So when we come to the jhanas, we develop a certain quality. So we suppress all the 5 hindrances. Not only 5 hindrances, I'll come to that. And in this topic, there are many things that we suppress in the jhana, not only 5 hindrances. So, but whatever the method you use, you will be suppressing all. Whether you use the asubha or metta, you will be suppressing kamachanda, vyapada both. But according to the method you use, there will be some akusala that will be suppressed with more grave strength, grave force. So that is what I am mentioning in the 15.8 fundamental. Generally, wholesomeness is against unwholesomeness. Moreover, there are certain wholesome qualities that are utterly against specific unwholesome qualities. As loving kindness is against resentment, dosa. In this regard, pahana is twofold in terms of the relationship of the wholesome quality, which does the abandoning, with the unwholesome quality that is being abandoned. So we look at abandoning unwholesome states by developing directly opposite wholesome states. If you go to Nivarna Pahana Vagga, Buddha mentions, if you go to abandon Kamachanda, develop the first jhana, attain upon the Asubha. Right? So, but you can ask a question. Even by attaining Metta jhana, you get rid of the 5 hindrances, right? So there is also Kamachanda will be abandoned. Right? Any jhana, Kamachanda is going to abandon. But this is the direct opposite. Asubha develop his first jhana is fully against the Kamachanda. Right? So because this just matters. In Netti or Petakopadesa, I forgot actually, it mentions, if the person is with high lobha, with strong lobha, like Venerable Nanda, Buddha mentions, if you want to say about Venerable Nanda in a proper way, you better say a person who is born in a high clan, a person, I remember person who is handsome, a person who has a very sharp lust. Then, if you say about Nanda, this is the correct way to say. Samma vadamano vadaya. So he has strong lust, strong raga. He is born in a good family. And as I remember, he was appearance. So there were three qualities that Buddha gave. And then he mentions that Nanda attained because of his strong lust. He had to be so sharp, so attentive in his Indriya Samvara. So he was the foremost in Indriya Samvara Sila among the Buddha's disciples. So the Netti or Petaka Dopadaya, I forgot the book which actually says. It says that it is impossible that Buddha instruct a person with strong lust. Buddha is able to categorize the people. Who is with strong lust, it is impossible that Buddha give a teaching about metta. He would always give this teaching on asubha to him. That is for strong lust person. If strong dosa person, it is impossible that he would give teachings on asubha. He would always give teachings on metta, to subdue his defilement. When you come to vipassana, it doesn't matter. All have the same path of observing sankharas, anicca, dukkha, anatta. So likewise, this factor, subduing defilements with directly opposing kusala or general whatever kusala, does matter to some beings. Especially Buddha was concerned about it. When he is reading the others' characters and giving instructions, he does think about this matter. So that is why that is why we can find two types of instructions. Right? So in the Nivara Pahana Vagga, it means the first jhana attained upon the 10 asubha objects, strongly subdue kamachanda, loving kindness, metta, strongly subdue vyapada, threefold virya, strongly subdue tinamidda, tranquility gained through either samatha bhavana or vipassana bhavana, strongly subdue uddacca and kukkucca, and proper contemplation about the realities and phenomenon, strongly subdue vicikicca. Then abandoning of unwholesome states by developing whatever wholesome state, regardless of the fact whether the wholesome or an unwholesome states are directly opposing each other. This idea can be fetched from Visuddhimagga under the instruction of suitable meditation for beings with different temperaments. It says, Raga dinang pana avikkambika kusala bhavana nati. There is no wholesome meditation that does not abandon unwholesomeness. In Visuddhimagga, they gave instructions to a particular person. It suits Raga Charita. To the Raga Charita, there are 11 meditations. That is Asubha 10 and Kayagata Sati. For a Dosa Charita, what suits is the 4 Appamanya. That Metta, Karuna, Mudita, Upekka. Then for a Moha Charita, it is the Anapana. For a Vitakka Charita, it is Anapana. Then to a Buddhi Charita, it gives Ahare, Patikula Sanya, Dhatu Manasikara, Marananusati and Upasamanusati. For a Saddha Charita, Buddhanusati, Dhammanusati, Sanghanusati, Chaganusati, Devatanusati, Silanusati. Then for a Raga Charita, again, when come to a Raga Charita regarding the Kasina suits to anyone. But the kasinas, 4 color kasinas should be bright for a dosa charita. For a raga charita, it should be bit not very bright light. Bright means not very attractive. Dubbanna. For a vitakka charita, the kasina object should be smaller. The moha charita, the object should be bigger. So likewise, there are different instructions given to different characteristics, different temperaments. So at the end of these teachings, Visuddhimagga says, but even though we mentioned there are specific meditations for specific temperaments, please keep in mind there is no wholesome meditation that does not abandon these raga and so forth. Because Saddha and raga are close to each other. Saddha can arouse raga. Person who has raga can have Saddha easily. But if you develop real Saddha, it will abandon raga. So there are 2 ways: developing wholesome qualities which are directly opposing, or developing whatever wholesome quality, because wholesomeness is generally against unwholesomeness. That is the thing. So if you go to there is this type of abandon in the last sentence is mentioned in the Vitakka Santhana Sutta of Majjhima Nikaya. That is very important. you read this sutta, Buddha mentions about 5 ways. They are regarding the other ways of abandoning, right? Other ways of abandoning the whole unwholesome state. He didn't mention about developing a fully opposite quality, just different modes by which you can abandon unwholesome states which arise in the mind. Then we come to another fundamental. In terms of the door in which they are abandoned, defilements are threefold. This classification is found in the Anguttara Nikaya of Kaya Sutta of Anguttara Nikaya. Kayena pahatabba dhamma, vachaya pahatabba dhamma. Then we have Panyaya diswa pahatabba dhamma. Things that should be abandoned by body. Things, akusalas that should be abandoned by speech. Akusalas that should be abandoned having seen with wisdom. So what does it mean? Akusalas abandoning by body doesn't mean that you have to use your body to abandon akusala. This is, if you read the topic, fundamental, in terms of the door in which they are abandoned. It means another way, the door which get purified by this abandoning. So the door which get purified by the abandoning. So based on that, when you abandon a certain akusala, which door gets purified? So based on that, we can define that we abandon akusalas in the body door. Kaya means here body door. Vacha means verbal door. Right? So body door doesn't mean this is not, there are 2 types of body doors. Normally when we say door, we think about the 6 doors. Actually, altogether there are 9 doors. 6 doors are the Chakku, Sota, Gana, Jivha, Kaya, Mana. These are the doors related to objects. Other 3 doors are Kamma door, Kamma Dwara. Kaya Dwara is a Vachi, Kaya Vinyati is the Kamma Dwara. Then Vachi Vinyati is the Kamma Dwara. Chitta again is the Kamma Dwara. Right? Chitta can be both Kamma Dwara and Aramana Dwara. Right? Aramana Dwara and Kamma Dwara. But Kamma Dwara, I think should be related to Mano Dwara Vajana when you come to the Kamma Dwara. I'm not sure about that. But any Chitta is door in terms of Aramana. So here when we say body door, it refers to the Kaya Vinyati in the ultimate sense. So but you can say normally, generally, when we do any akusala using our physical body, we say we do it with body door, right? So how to purify the body door means by not doing akusalas by the body. It is not the mere absence of doing. It is by observing a sila, making a determination, or removing the akusala tendencies that would cause for immoral bodily actions. So when we suppress our akusalas and observe a proper sila, or at the level of Lokuttara Magga, we abandon the unwholesome tendencies that could cause for our unwholesome acts, bodily acts. That time we say, we abandon akusala in terms of body. For that you don't need to move the body. For that, what we do is, we determine. So then, we are not performing any akusala through the body as long as we don't break the sila. So, without moving the body, when we observe the akusalas, not to do evil deeds through body, with body, that means we are purifying the body door. So, Vachaya Pahatabba the same. When you observe the silas, not to do evil speech using this Vachi Vinyati. So that time we say the speech door is being purified, and that is called Vachaya Pahatabba Dhamma, means those akusalas that are abandoned by this kind of a sila, right? And also at the moment of Magga. Then we come into another explanation. Then Panyaya Diswa Pahatabba. Defilements that should be abandoned by comprehension. That is with Vipassana meditation.
The remaining all unwholesome chittupadas, apart from kayena pahatabba and vachaya pahatabba defilements, are the panyaya diswa pahatabba dhamma. So when one does vipassana meditation, these defilements get lessened and finally will be eradicated by Lokuttara Magga. Right? You can read this sutta. Buddha mentioned about Issa and so forth, the various types of akusalas. It's a very nice sutta given in Anguttara Nikaya. So this is the by way. So for example, if I remind something that which I didn't have time to talk in the Kamma lecture. So there are, when we talk about the 3-4 kammas, wholesome kammas, we say kaya kamma, vachi kamma, mano kamma. So one way of saying is the which door you used to do the kamma. For example, when you are giving dana by body, this is called kaya kamma. If you are instructing someone to give dana, or if you are preaching dhamma, this is called vachi kamma. If you are meditating, this is called mano kamma. Meditation can be done by body door also, that is by walking meditation. It is called kaya bhavana. If you do the recitation, like recite meditation, this is called vachi bhavana. If you recite, contemplate without using the words or without the body, this is called mano bhavana. So likewise, in Attasalini, the commentary of Dhammasangani, all 3 dana, sila, bhavana is explained based on all the 3 doors. All the 3 doors. Yes. Yeah? Any questions? Yeah. Okay. So this is based on what kind of the door that you use for your practice. Then there is another way of saying kaya chitta mano for kusala kamma. The which door is purified. Which door is purified. When you observe the silas, not to do any evil deeds with body, not to do any evil deeds with speech. So if you determine not to do evil speech with body, that sila, restraining, is called kaya kamma, kusala kaya kamma. So that is why restraining from killing, restraining from stealing, restraining from sexual misconduct, this is called kaya kamma. The second way of explaining. Restraining from evil speeches like lying, slandering, harsh word and vain talk, this is called vachi kamma. The remaining all acts are called mano kamma. In that sense, dana falls into mano kamma, not kaya kamma. Because so the second way of explanation is based on the which door is purified. When you give dana, you are purifying the mind door out of lobha. So purified door comes the first 3 kusala kamma patas. Restraining from killing, stealing, sexual misconduct is kaya kamma. Restraining from lying, slandering, harsh word and vain talk is vachi kamma. All the other kusalas, including dana, including doing duties, cleaning the sanghas property, or serving the parents, which are done with your body, they all fall into mano kamma because the door which get purified. Right? So whenever Lady Sayadaw says, out of these 2 methods which are found in the commentarial literature, in the Attasalini, when you come into the Kama Vachara Kusala Kamma Katha, it mentions in the Buddhist teachings, what matters most is the abandoning of akusala dhammas. He says, the teachings, practices of Buddhist teachings is mainly for abandoning unwholesome state. So out of the 2 classifications of kusala kamma, kaya kamma, vachi kamma, mano kamma, the second mode is the most important. Which door which is purified. It is the more emphasis should be given upon that. So then we come into another topic, which is a very long topic. So out of this, I'll just explain about Tadanga Pahana only, right? So there are 5 ways Pahana is explained again. I think you know that. Tadanga Pahana, Vikambana Pahana, Samucheda Pahana, Patipassadi Pahana, and Nissarana Pahana.
So out of Tadangappahana, abandoning in a particular respect. Tang, anga. Tadanga comes from ta plus anga. So when you abandon akusala dhamma with a respective kusala dhamma, that is called Tadangappahana. That is called Tadangappahana. So it's also like opposing factors. This pahana is explained in the Salleka Sutta. Buddha mentions about 44 unwholesome states that are abandoned by 44 wholesome states. This is a temporal abandonment, not a permanent abandoning. So Tadangappahana, abandoning of unwholesome states, particular unwholesome states by opposing wholesome states temporarily. Right? So for example, Panatipata is abandoned by Panatipata Veramani. Adinadana is abandoned by Adinadana Veramani. So likewise 44 akusalas are abandoned by 44 opposing wholesome states. Then we come into another type of Tadangappahana. Tadangappahana in jhana. Jhana, abandoning done by jhana can also be called Tadangappahana. Normally we call it Vikkamanappahana. But if you go into the sutta of Tadanga Nibbana Sutta of Anguttara Nikaya, a discussion which happened, Venerable Kaludai and Venerable Ananda, a long discussion which was divided into 9 suttas, a discussion. The same discussion was given in 9 suttas. In the Anguttara Nikaya, Navaka Nipata, it is found. So he mentions, when you abandon unwholesome states by jhanas, this is called a Tadanga. Why it is called Tadanga? Because a particular wholesome state abandons a particular unwholesome state, or particular other opposing state. Tang anga. This is the important part. Divide the word. Ta anga. That is why I gave the translation. Abandoning in a particular respect. This is all. Tadangappahana and Vikkamanappahana are temporal pahana. So when you go to the word Tadanga, it refers abandoning a certain akusala by a certain kusala, or abandoning a certain reality by another reality. So in the first jhana, we abandon all the 5 hindrances. For an example, you abandon Kamachanda is abandoned by Ekaggata. Tina Vidya is abandoned by Vitakka. Vichara is Vichikiccha is abandoned by Vichara. Uddacha Kukkucha is abandoned by Sukha. Piti, Dosa is abandoned by Piti. So likewise, there is a particular way of abandoning. Second jhana abandons Vitakka Vichara. Third jhana abandons Piti. Fourth jhana abandons Sukha. Fifth jhana abandons Sukha. Fourth jhana abandons Piti. Third jhana abandons Vichara. Second jhana abandons Vitakka. So in the fourfold way, Vitakka Vichara both by the second jhana. So then Neva Sanyana Akinchanyayatana abandon the fifth jhana. Vijnananchayatana abandon the first Arupa jhana. Third Arupa jhana abandon the second Arupa jhana. Fourth Arupa jhana abandon the third Arupa jhana. Then both Vipassana and Samatha practice abandons Vedana Sanya in the Nirodha Samapatti. So even we explain about jhana, there is a particular relationship with what is being abandoned and what abandons, who abandons. And so therefore, Venerable Ananda answered to Venerable Udai the abandoning done by jhana with the term Tadanga Nibbana. Right? These are the ways to use. Then the Vipassana meditation. If you go to the next point. In Vipassana meditation, specific akusalas are abandoned by specific wisdoms. There are 18 Vipassana jnanas which abandon 18 types of defilements. I am not going to read them in detail. So this is also a Tadanga Pahana. Tadanga Pahana means, for example, Anicca Sanyang Bhavento Nicca Sanyang Pajahati. One who develops Anicca Sanya gives up the Nicca Sanya. So Anicca Sanya and Nicca Sanya, they are opposing. So Nicca Sanya is abandoned by Anicca Sanya. So likewise, Kama Chanda is abandoned by Ekaggata in the first jhana. So therefore, the jhana, abandoning done by jhana can also be called tadanga pahana. Abandoning done by vipassana can also be called tadanga pahana. Abandoning done in sila, when with a particular akusala, is can be also called tadanga pahana. So tadanga pahana goes even the nirodha samapatti. The abandoning of the akusalas at the moment of nirodha samapatti, even though it is a samucheda pahana we happen, it can also be called tadanga pahana because we are specifically, there is a specific relationship. So therefore, these abandonings can be called tadanga pahana. That is why Venerable Ananda mentioned the word tadanga pahana for the abandoning done by jhana. So I'll take a break before coming into Vikkamana Pahana, and also what was mentioned in the jhana, So Vikkamana Pahana, and I'll lead the lecture covering the remaining parts and also about Bhavana. So if you have any questions, before concluding, we discussed about the Pahana in detail. What is Pahana? Abandoning, temporary or permanently. The state of non-arising of the thus abandoned unwholesome state is called the pahana in the ultimate sense. What should be abandoned is called pahatabba, and normally we talk about the akusalas which are to be pahatabba. And also what is to be abandoned is a latent quality, not the akusala which has arisen. Then the kusalas that does the abandoning are called pahayaka. Then sometimes these kusalas are also referred as pahana in the literature. Then also merely not doing akusala is not a pahana, and replacing akusala with another akusala is also not a pahana. Then pahana can be done in two ways: by developing a directly opposing wholesome quality, or by developing whatever wholesome quality. Then we have three types of pahana: by the door in which the akusala is abandoned, or the door which gets purified by the abandoning. And then we discuss out of the fivefold pahana, discuss about the tadanga pahana. Tadanga pahana includes the abandoning done by sila and good practices. Sometimes the abandoning done by jhana is also referred as tadanga pahana. Abandoning done in the nirodha samapatti also referred as tadanga pahana. And abandoning done in the vipassana is also called tadanga pahana. Right? So these are the points that I discussed. So we'll have the next lecture. Before concluding, if you have any questions, you can raise. Yeah. Yeah. That is in the commentary of Atthasali. I can give you the exact reference. It is in the Kamavachara Kusala Kammakata. Any further questions? Yes.
Yes. Vachaya Mahatavad Dhamma. You just mentioned that we can develop it by recitation.
No. What I mentioned was there are two types of Kusala Kamma is twofold. Means by which the kamma is done, the door which is purified. Right? These are the two ways. So in this term, if you use the body, we call kaya kamma, kusala kaya kamma. This is also threefold as dana, sila, bhavana. Then we have vachi, kusala vachikam.
These also three fall as dana, sila, bhavana. Then we have kusala, mano, kamma. These also three fall as dana, sila, bhavana. Right? So what I mentioned was kusala, vachi, kamma in bhavana. It is what when you recite, like if you go into you can get the reference for this in the Pancha Vimuttayatana Sutta. Pancha Vimuttayatana Sutta, Buddha mentions by recitation you can attain the liberation. So recitation is something which is highly recommended in our sasana. But when you recite, you should have your own tone, own speed, should not be too fast, should not be too slow. There is, to different people, they have their own ways of getting the proper concentration. So according to that, if you have your own method, it should not be so melodic, right? Not a music, but a proper recitation which does not arouse lobha, dosa, moha, but which concentrates your mind. And if you are able to recite with the proper concentration and is able to lead the contemplation with the recitation, Buddha mentions you are able to attain arahantship even. That is called sajjayana in the Pancha Vimuttayatana Sutta. So there is a story about in the 3 monks came to Venerable Malaya in Sri Lanka, and he asked them, so they were well-learned monks, 2 or 3 monks. So they were given the Tacha Panchaka just to recite the Kesa Loma Naka Danta Tacho for 3 months. So within the 3 months, while reciting, they ended up being Sotapannas because they had the knowledge, they knew how to lead their contemplation. So therefore, contemplation is, that's what I mentioned, contemplation comes under Kusala Vachi Kamma Bhavana, right? Kusala Vachi Kamma Bhavana. So when it comes to the door which is purified, we have Kaya Kamma. So shall I erase this Pancha Vimuttayatana, the reference? We have Kaya Kamma, Kusala Kaya Kamma. This is restraining from 3 bodily evil deeds. Then we have Kusala Vachi Kamma. That is called restraining from 4 verbal deeds. Then we have Kusala Manokamma. That is called all the other Kusala K deeds. So including dana, doing duties, teaching Dhamma, all falls into. Even though we are teaching Dhamma, according to this, it falls into Vachi Kamma. Right? The teaching Dhamma falls into a bhavana of Vachi Kamma. Right? But in this method, teaching Dhamma, studying Dhamma, giving dana, all goes into the last, because that is based on the dough which is being purified. While you do kusala, mind dough will surely be purified. That is the thing. But when you do these 2 kusalas, there is an extra dough which is purified. That is the body dough and the verbal dough. Right? So this is what I mentioned. Is it clear? Is it what you want? Right. So we'll take a break and start within 15 minutes.